Japan, the world's third largest economy, has a military weaker than that of North Korea. A country that faces the threats of nuclear attacks from China on a daily basis is not even allowed to raise a military of its own. A country that saw two of its major cities getting ravaged by atom bombs is not even well armed to prevent that from happening again, say if China and North Korea decide to turn full rogue. It's not the unwillingness of the Japanese leadership that stands in the way of Japan becoming a military superpower. It's actually the constitution, the pacifist constitution that the country embraced after facing a crushing defeat in the Second World War. But now, things are changing. Gone are the days of pacifism, when Japan would find itself neutered against Chinese belligerents. Beware, China, the samurais are coming for you. Hi and welcome. This is TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am Siddharth, your host, and in this video, I will tell you how Japan looks all set to bid adieu to the biggest obstacle in its way towards becoming a military superpower, its pacifist constitution. Let's begin. Japan's pacifist constitution shows how the Second World War scars run deep in Japan's politics even today. Every sovereign nation on this planet has the right to wage a war against its enemy to defend its boundaries and interests, except Japan. After Japan's crushing defeat at the hands of Allied forces in the Second World War, Japan's constitution was rewritten in such a way that it made it unlawful for Japan to raise military and spend on defense beyond the 1% GDP cap under Article 9. After having seen its two major cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki ravaged by nuclear attacks during the war, a pacifist constitution looked appealing for an exhausted and tired Japan. Indeed, pacifism brought stabilization to the region and helped Japan build up its economy. In the 1950s and 1960s, Japan entered into a military alliance with the USA, followed by a massive economic boom cemented on strong US-Japan trade ties. Japan's economy thrived under the USA's nuclear umbrella, which took full advantage of the US-backed free trade regimes and went on to become the second largest economy in the world only after the US itself. While showing his support for the Reagan administration in the 1980s, Japan's former Prime Minister Yasuhiro Nakasone had once famously described the Japanese island nation as an unsinkable aircraft carrier, highlighting Japan's indispensable role as a bulwark against communism during the peak of the Cold War. Subsequently, pacifism made deep inroads in Japanese culture. Even talking about military strength became a cultural taboo in Japanese society. Japan's principal opposition party is named Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, which itself explains how upholding the pacifist provisions of the Japanese constitutions held extreme importance in post-World War II Japan. However, exponential economic might and the rise of nationalism in Japan forced the Japanese conservatives to look the other way. First signs of Japan's willingness to raise its own military started surfacing during the rule of Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi, who served in the office from 2001 to 2006. Shinzo Abe served as the chief secretary during these years when Japan deployed 600 unarmed Japanese self-defense forces to Iraq between 2004 and 2006. Later on, when Abe became the prime minister in 2012, the calls for revising the pacifist constitution became even louder in some conservative factions. Japan lost the status of second largest economy to China in 2010, which further emboldened Japanese leaders to test the limit of the US-penned provisions of Article 9. A mere 2 years after assuming the Prime Minister's office, Shinzo Abe went on to set in motion the most significant break from Article 9 to date. In 2014, Abe reinterpreted Article 9 that rendered the Japanese self-defense forces more powerful and assertive. Subsequently, Japan deployed JSDF ships to patrol near the disputed Senkakus in defiance of Chinese government protests. Abe even vowed to arm Japan with ballistic missiles after the burgeoning missile menace from North Korea. Make no mistake, reinterpretation of Article 9 was hardly a cakewalk for Shinzo Abe. From liberals to students and from opposition to media, a large section of the Japanese society was not really content with the changes that Abe wanted to bring in. 7 years down the line, and a lot has changed since then. With China's belligerence reaching unprecedented levels, Tokyo is increasingly finding it necessary to ramp up its defenses. China's expansionist ambitions not only threaten Japan's sovereignty, but also its very existence. Thanks to China's burgeoning geopolitical offense, Japan's pacifist constitution is increasingly turning obsolete and into a liability. With enormous economic might and gigantic cachet in the democratic world, it won't be an arduous task for Japanese leadership to turn Japan into a force multiplier for the democratic world. A powerful military is what today's Japan needs to counter threats of a Chinese invasion. Also, Japan has all the means for materializing such necessities. What stands in the way is the pacifist constitution that Japan looks all set to bid adieu to anytime soon. Abe's ambitions of steering his country away from pacifism now stand a great chance of getting materialized with the rise of the right in Japan. Opposition party, Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, has witnessed its popularity plummeting in the recently held elections, clearing the way for the conservatives in the lower house to red ink the pacifist provisions. The Conservative Japan Innovation Party bagged 41 seats in these elections, 30 higher than the last elections. JIP is not only the staunchest military supporter in the parliament, but it may also stand with the LDP to revise the country's constitution. The LDP, JIP and other conservative parties in the 465-seat lower house of the parliament now hold 345 seats, well up from their combined strength of 324 seats before the elections. That means now conservatives can easily revise the constitution with an unprecedented majority in the lower house, way above the needed support of two-thirds of lawmakers. With Shinzo Abe's return to the fray as the kingmaker in Japanese politics, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is expected to echo Abe's reformist agenda in his policies. Abe is set to lead the largest Hasoda faction of the ruling LDP party, which will ensure Kishida's stance against China remains toughened throughout his tenure. The rise of the right in Japan also illustrates Japanese society's evolving outlook towards the issue. Political parties, including the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, are witnessing their electoral fortunes sinking with each passing day. Thanks to the rising China threat, even people in the most peaceful country are now learning the importance of acquiring means to drive China's inflated expansionist ambitions into the ground.